The biggest mystery in the Acolyte show by far has to be the question of who is the mysterious Sith Lord training May, and I think I have a good idea as to who this might be. Now of course we could talk about Plagueis or someone along that line, but I don't think this show is really heading in that direction. Instead, I think the Sith Lord in hiding is actually Qimir, and the reason why I say this is simply just how suspicious he has been in these first few episodes. Although he simply claims that he was just a procurer or helper to May, the stuff he says and the way he acts simply do not reflect this supposedly simple man. And a lot of this simply has to do with how much he knows. When we're first introduced to him right off the bat, he's able to recite the Sith code, or at least part of it, stating,
"And peace
is a lie, I know."
On top of that, he even coaches May on how to kill Torbin, talking about how Torbin is not the serene meditator, thinking he has found peace when what he really needs is absolution. And while this doesn't really seem like much, what he is talking about or hinting at is some high-level manipulation, the sort of stuff that the Sith usually engage in when they try to destabilize the Jedi, especially during a fight.
You want this, don't you? The hate is swelling in you now.
And when May tells him not to tell the Master, he says,
Of course.
which does seem to have a note of disappointment at May's decision. Especially when the Jedi confront him back in episode 2, where we see a rather rapid switch up in personality. When Osha, pretending to be May, first approaches Qimir, he puts on a rather sly and confident persona. In the beginning of the scene, Qimir acts sort of docile and friendly, and when he thinks Osha or May has killed Torbin without a weapon, he actually becomes quite happy. In fact, he says,
He will be so pleased.
which is a somewhat weird way of saying it, almost as if he was talking in third person rather than actually talking about the Master. And when he realizes that it is in fact not May but Osha, notice how the moment he realizes this, he doesn't get panicked or scared, but becomes really inquisitive. And if we assume that he is in fact the Sith Lord, it is almost as if he is reconsidering his investment in May, potentially thinking that replacing May with Osha should May fail would be an alternative solution. And when the Jedi finally confront him, he deflects and suddenly acts all timid, which is quite contradictory to the moment earlier where he was much more empowered. So you can definitely take this whole bumbling, naive character as a facade for the much darker character underneath. Another thing to note in that same episode 2 is that when May tries to kill Qimir thinking that he sold her out to the Jedi, he actually quite easily nullifies her attack. And considering that May is a force-sensitive assassin, it seems rather suspicious that Qimir, who's supposedly an average smuggler, is easily able to handle himself. If we slow the footage down, we can actually see that his reflexes and movements are fast and precise, the same type of speed and ability that we see Saul exemplify in his earlier confrontation with May. And so if Qimir is the Dark Lord, then this would really answer the question as to how he's able to fend for himself so well. Not to mention, Qimir also seems to know a lot about the Jedi and their whereabouts. It was Qimir that told May where Kalnaka is in order to restore her trust, and considering that between the time he was confronted by the Jedi and when May confronted him, there wasn't a lot of time to do some serious investigating, which is why it leads me to conclude that he did in fact already have that information on hand. Not to mention, you can also argue that he's only willingly giving this information to May because he now realizes just how close the Jedi are getting. And so in a way, he needed May to move on quicker to escape the Jedi's attention. Again, some really suspicious behavior that seems to point to the fact that he is a Sith in disguise. In episode 4, when May and Qimir are on Khofar, we are shown Qimir to be a bit of a bumbling idiot, tripping over things and fumbling about. Again, it's a real stretch from the character he just portrayed earlier, and this sort of inconsistency in his character is really carried through almost every scene he is in. During his intro, we are told that he's an alcoholic of some sort, but in every other scene, we never see him drink. Again, signs that indicate that Qimir is not at all what he pretends to be. Also, it's worth noting that the forest that May and Qimir track through is very dangerous, something which Qimir himself also mentions. And so when we consider how Qimir is able to safely navigate a hostile, uncharted environment, it again doesn't quite match the bumbling fool that he is trying to portray. Even May herself was not convinced that Qimir she knew was able to do this. Throughout May and Qimir's interaction on Khofar, Qimir constantly encourages May to follow the task of killing a Jedi without a weapon. And you have to wonder why he is pushing so hard for May to complete her master's task in the way he wanted. Considering that he's just there to help May, he could have easily taken the path of not caring or helping May complete her task and covering up how she did it. And so it's incredibly suspicious that he is trying to push it so hard. May also starts to question him on his motivations and connections to her master, and this answer is kind of vague, simply stating that he owes him.
I just owe him. You know how he is. He collects people.
Again, not a very convincing explanation. In a later scene when May sits down and professes that killing a Jedi without a weapon is impossible, notice his irritated reaction, almost as if he was reacting as a master instead of a concerned friend. In the last few moments of the episode, when May comes up with a plan to betray her master by turning herself in and allowing the Jedi to arrest her in exchange for her sister, and telling Qimir her plan while leaving him trapped, the Sith Lord also coincidentally shows up. In fact, not only does he show up, but he actually manages to kill Kalnaka first, ensuring that May can't spill her secrets and confronting the rest of the Jedi to ensure that the secret remains hidden. In a way, May's decision could have jeopardized his position, hence forcing him to act. But the speed of his reaction was way too fast and could have only happened if he knew in real time what was about to happen. Which is why I think it points to the fact that Qimir is the Dark Lord, as only he could have reacted that fast and promptly after May told him of her new plan. For me, this simply makes the most sense. Another interesting thing that happens in the final few scenes of the episode is that when the Dark Lord shows up behind Osha, he ignites his lightsaber but doesn't kill her at all. Instead, he sort of looks at her and throws her away using the Force so he can likely save her for his plans later on. But this only works if he knew Osha was alive and was interested in her, both of which Qimir displayed earlier on. So again, all signs point to Qimir as being the mysterious man behind the mask, and I actually have a separate theory as to why the Sith Lord didn't kill Osha and how May and Osha's journeys are going to intersect in a very, very big way. But that's a theory for another video. Anyways, that's all from me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is Qimir the Dark Lord, or do you have someone else in mind? As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.